Welcome back, my super soul shoe sisters. Thank you so much again for joining me today. Today I want to talk about being hypnotized shoes. It sounds like an odd pair, but it's really, I do hypnotherapy, and it just amazes me just how much marketing and messaging that's out there that is really just conditioning us. I mean, it's really just ongoing conditioning, as we've spoken about before, with back to the bicycle analogy, where you don't know that you don't know, then you know that you can't ride the bike, then you get on the bike and then you actually ride it. Now, it's all well and good when it's something that you're actually wanting to do, but I just want to bring people's awareness so we get smarter about making our own decisions for ourselves and actually what's right for us and right for our family. And sometimes you'd think right for your friends, but you've got to let them wear their own shoes. It's even within our own family. I mean, just because we're the mums and dads of the kids or whatever, we try to do the best by them, but it gets to a point at some stage where they're going to have to make their own decisions for themselves. And quite often some will start earlier than others, and they're not decisions you always want them to be making, but all you can do really is guide them. That's how I look at it. It's like, well, the consequence of doing this and that, and then we try those shoes on, and it's like, well, if we walk down that path, what would the consequence be? If you tried these shoes on, you walk down the path, what would the consequences be? And that's how I try to do it with my kids. But what I would like to bring attention to is the subliminal conditioning that we're subjected to on honestly a daily basis. Fantastic marketing, don't get me wrong, fantastic marketing from the powers that be. It's also, core messages that institutions might put out, dare I say religious, even spiritual. They, fall under the banner of spiritual. But, you've got to, is it for the right, what purpose is sitting behind it? I'm going to talk about that in the next video, actually, a bit more. But this is I just want us to start becoming aware, like, that first stage of the unconsciously incompetent. That's where a lot of people are sitting with this stuff. They don't even realize that it's actually being done to them. And because we are animals in the world, we are literally trained into a certain behavioral mechanism. And the marketers are highly trained to trigger and send out those consistent messages that are quite often on a subliminal basis even. And it's across the board. I mean, it can be governments, it can be, religious orders and institutions, like I mentioned. It can be just straight up marketing. So when you think about, again, like it's that whole thing of like Coca-Cola, they, as an example, where it was, feel better, taste great, feel connected, got that whole group of people singing on the mountain, makes you feel like you're on top of the world, makes you feel loved and connected. So it triggers all these different sensations within a person, and of course it's highly addictive. And someone did confirm for me that they actually did use Coke in the early versions of Coke, and then it got removed. But the idea was that it gets kicked in and hooks the person in, so that before you know it, you're just taking whatever it is. Now it's like, remember I was telling you about that one friend in the one video about how she just would say, oh well, like I take a bar of chocolate and I sit in front of the TV and I just hoe through the whole thing. If you're conditioned by, your internal drivers is one thing, but when an external stimulus comes along, I would like for you to be able to go, oh, get my Sherlock shoes on. Is this really what I want? Stop it at that point where you go, check with your internal self, where your self shoes, SELF, where it's like, that doesn't feel good for me, and let me just push it back, get some distance here, let me go and do some research, get my Sherlock shoes on, investigate, see if this is actually a good thing for me, for my health, for my whatever it is that they're trying to sell to you, whatever the message is. It's really just expert salesmen with a repetitive way, tapping all your senses. So they'll use music, they'll use that's emotive, that lifts the emotion or pulls the emotion down so that they can get fear and control, and that blocks out all sorts of things. So an example might be, for example, like I'm because I'm so conscious of it, I tune out straight away. I'm onto it like that now. When I see an ad or I hear certain music or tunes that are played, I go, right, I know what's coming, and I just switch off. So I either, like for example, here's a negative one. I mean, it's not great, but like with the whole pandemic stuff, there was a lot of fear-driven advertising across the board, and it was in the form of posters, so something that you see. They had a lot of those stickers on the floor where you had to keep your distance. Now I'm not saying don't be safe, but I'm just letting you know that the strategy that was used, so then you can then decide whether it works for you or not. I mean, these are your shoes, your path, your way, so it's not for me to say either way. I just want you to be conscious of, oh yeah, that's right, I'll recognize that I'm being conditioned to stand on that sticker or whatever that's on the floor, or that block, or whatever they would use, and then there were messages and on all the posters like wear your masks because it's not safe. And so the messaging behind that was not safe, not safe, not safe. You got to keep that on. Whether it's a good thing or not, entirely up to you. Whether you needed to wear it or not, I mean, I don't know. But then I'm just giving you an example of what they were doing in order to get the message across. And then it would be things like you go into the supermarket and they'd have, like an alarm bell thing going off. So it's a set sound that was like doodle-doo, doodle-doo, doodle-doo. Now, alarms cause you to go into sympathetic nervous system mode. So you're immediately in fear mode. And what happens, as we know, as I mentioned to you before, is that all people do this, all animals do this. If they're in fight flight mode, our senses go into tunnel vision. You in run, fight, flight mode. You're not in that Sherlock shoes thing, calm, going, oh, let me see what the options are, whatever the case may be, whether it's right or not, but I just want you to be aware of it. I'm not saying there's any rightness or wrongness with this. I'm just saying, it was noticeable to me, all the different things that were happening, and I wasn't I just want people to be aware that this is what happens. And do you want to be, are you conscious of that? So for me, I didn't want to be in that fight flight mode the whole time, because I mean, it's actually quite scary, isn't it? I mean, you've got your tunnel vision on like that. And what happens, unfortunately, when you're in that zone is you become more susceptible to whatever the messages are that you think might create safety. So whether they're right messages or wrong messages doesn't matter. You are then more susceptible because you're just in such panic mode. It's like if someone says, here's a lifeline, you'll just grab it. Well, if that lifeline has barbs on it, you might cut your hand, but you didn't think about it because you're in such panic mode. You just go tunnel vision. Oh, something gets thrown in front, right, I'll grab that. Or somebody said that this was going to be a good thing to do, or I should go this way. Oh, and then suddenly I'm off there, and then I'm doing whatever it is over here that I had no intention of doing, and I'm like, how did I even end up over here? So that music, that alarm bell sound kicks in that panic, that fear, that worry. Everyone's on high alert. It makes people more anxious and more prone to aggravation because they're like, you know, oh, is that person safe? They might be, you know, so you've got a lot of anxiety and stress constantly being triggered throughout the day. Now, yes, you have to be safe. You know, absolutely, no question. I just want to draw awareness to how that is presented in the world, you know, like that's a particular example. So what I did in order to calm myself and not be triggered and not go into that sort of anxious anxiety mode. And I mean, it doesn't make you any less safe. It actually makes you more safe, because you can now, your blinders come off and you can go, oh, okay, all right, that's not too bad. I actually can handle this. You know, I'm not under direct threat now. Or you might go, actually, that is concerning. There is somebody that's looking like they've got symptoms, and maybe I will keep my distance. But you've got your blinders off. You're in a more calmer state to be able to make those educated decisions, right? So what I used to do is I used to put my earplugs in and play soothing, calming music while I was doing my shopping, or I would order online, and then it was just a case of that way I would avoid it. I was conscious of when I saw posters that reaffirmed fear. I started reassociating, breaking the association and going, you know, it means something else that's less concerning, but still aware that, you know, do need to be safe. But it is just that whole thing of, you know, they compound it. It's like visual with an auditory combined every single day, consistently throughout the day, everywhere that you go. You now have super blinders on, and then, you know, you just... It could be a religious person throwing something in, you know, if it's good stuff, fantastic, but you lose your capacity to make educated, well-researched decisions when you're in that kind of mode, you see. And what happens, it's like, you know, like in the case of like Coca-Cola with their advertising or whatever, it's like in the old days, it was like they used all the senses, you know, you feel good, you feel connected with everybody else. You have the drink, it's got full of sugar, it's full of caffeine. Of course, it's going to give you energy temporarily. Sugar's going to kick in, you know, your endorphins and your, you know, shift up your serotonin levels and feel good factors with your hormones. So of course it's going to feel good. So it's that kinesthetic. You remember we were talking about our VACOG clogs, all the different senses, you know, taste goods. You recognize the smell of Coca-Cola, you know, so it works in both ways. Now, every single thing with our advertising, you know, dare I say it, like, you know, churches sometimes use this for good intent, fantastic. So, you know, if it's not though, you've got to go, let me just check that out. Go in, internalize, check with, you know, myself. Does that feel good? Check where the feeling is. If you're feeling a little, there's something a little bit off about that person, that, yeah, like I was talking about the tingly shoes, you know, the goosebump shoes. It's like if something's off and there's an incongruence, it's at that moment where you go, oh, something's a little off here, or, you know, or I understand that messaging and I understand that it's for my benefit, but maybe the way that it's being promoted doesn't work for you. So that was what it was for me with the whole pandemic stuff. It was like, you know, just not going into that panic mode the whole time, because if you're going to do that, you're going to be on high alert. And honestly, it went on for like 3 years, didn't it? And it was just like, you can't sustain that level of anxiety and stress without something, you know, going off there. And you know, then you're even more anxious throughout the day, because you've got this compounded effect of, oh, you know, it's not safe there, it's not safe there, she's not safe. That, you know, I've got the messaging saying that it's not safe continually, subliminally in the background. I've got posters subliminally in the background. I've got, you know, messages on my radio, on my TV, on my devices. You know, I've now got the neighbors talking about it. Everybody's talking fear. And it's very hard to be calm in all of that, isn't it? So it's just, half of it is just an awareness of, oh, look, you know, I see they've been triggered. I see that person's really, you know, anxious. I've noticed that I'm now feeling anxious because of it. It's checking that internal barometer, really. What is it? Noticing, oh, well, just because they're doing it that way, is that the right way? There's the Sherlock shoes. Let me go and investigate. Let me take my blinders off. Let me go and do a meditation that's going to calm me. Let me put on some soothing music so that I'm not stressed out the whole time. Yes, I know that it's out there, like I'm not saying be irresponsible, not by any means. Absolutely. Just don't distort, don't do that distortion thing that I talked about before. But, have it where you've got use your noggin, use your head, and your heart, sync it up together. Go, look, I do want to be safe, but I don't want to be constantly triggered into being in such a fearful state that I'm so anxious and so stressed out that it's not going to take me very much to push me over the edge. And I just don't want to be in that state. So I recognize, it is for the safety. Thank you. Got it. Okay. Don't need to be constantly triggered throughout the day, consistently for months on end, sometimes years, just for that thing. I get it, and I respect that, and I will respect that, but it's the long term. This is why I think, we landed up with so much anxiety and stress, is because there were multiple triggers subliminally that were happening on an ongoing basis consistently for a long period of time. And as a result now, suicide rates went through the roof. Depression was unbelievable. We had, record numbers across the board for drug use, smoking, drinking, home abuse. I mean, everything just went straight up to the top because of that constant negative message. Again, with the positive intention of keeping people safe, right? Okay, I get it, all right? So remember, we were talking about behind every negative behavior, there's always a positive intention. Totally get it. It's important, but I think there's also that thing of like, for me, is it too much? I mean, I just saw people's wheels falling off because they were more stressed than they needed to be. They're taking the safe measures. They're doing what they needed to do. But how conditioned did they land up becoming without even realizing? And I just want to have it where people become more aware of, oh, okay, I've clocked that. If that works for you, fine, don't worry about it. If maybe you're the type of person where that doesn't make you fearful, it doesn't make you stress, it doesn't make you feel overwhelmed. If you can genuinely go in and go, that it doesn't make me anxious to see all of that stuff, but it's a conscious decision that you're going, my shoes, my path, my way. Yes, I get it. Or I'm going to adjust my shoes. I'm just going to, I accept I will be safe, but I'll do it in a different way. Or I just don't want to be, subjected to that negativity so consistently when I know that, that's not going to help myself or other people around me. How supportive can I be if I'm in super fearful mode? I'm not going to be really great. So, and it's also like with all the marketing, when there's ads constantly coming in, like for example, there was one, and I do worry, God bless social media. Like my daughter came through and she was telling me about, like, she'd done some crazy stuff with her eyebrows, and it's like something called octopus or something, where they brush up their eyebrows like this and down, and then they make and some of them are even joining it up. And I was like, really? What is that? It looks awful. Like, just don't even go there. Oh, it's a latest trending thing. I was like, she's young, she's playing, she's testing, she's checking out, is this cool, is it not? I mean, she's young and impressionable, and that is my concern with all of this stuff, is that, dare I say, our devices are quite often babysitters for a lot of people. And I do, and it's like, they are unaware that they are being conditioned, that they are being really hypnotized into a certain behavioral pattern, that they're not checking internally, they're not using their Sherlock shoes to go, actually, is that you know, is that really what I want to be doing? Does it really make me look better? You know, will my friends actually want to do that? And it's like, you know, I'd love to have it where we can teach our kids as well, not just ourselves getting on top of it, but bring the awareness to it, bring the you know, do you realize you're being triggered and conditioned by, you know, I also want to have it where they then decide, are brave enough to go, these are not shoes that I want to wear. You know, these octopus eyebrow shoes aren't for me. They certainly don't work for me. So like I had the discussion, I was like, oh, that's interesting. Where did you see it? It was on TikTok. You know, it's a new trending thing. Feeling like, you know, well, in order to be accepted and loved into the herd, then I should wear them. And you see, that's just marketing. It's like, if you do this, you'll be unique, you'll be different, but you know, you'll be part of the new crowd, you'll be setting a trend, you'll be loved and accepted and thought of as amazing and thought leader, or whatever it is that you think. So I had that whole discussion with her, and thank goodness she's not doing it. But it's that, how impressionable are our young ones, and especially in a developing mind. And let me tell you, especially up to the age of 6, guys, don't leave TVs on. You know, don't do that whole leave your kid in front of the TV or in front of a device uncensored, especially up to the age of 6, because the brain's really developing in that period of time, and you're very, very susceptible, and stuff goes in. Their filtering capacity is close to 0, and what goes in can really affect their long-term behavioral patterns further down the line. So, you know, my ideal world, there would be no ads, there would be no, you know, TV ads. Like, it just amazed me how they always have on TV, you know, it goes something along the lines of, you know, let us know if this is offensive material, or you know, report this program or whatever. And yet, you know, like if there's too much violence or whatever it is, and yet ads come on and it's all guns blazing and people blowing people up, and I'm just like, you know, take this and do that, you know, kind of drugs or whatever, you know, not illegal drugs, but obviously things that may not necessarily be good for you, and could be questioned perhaps. And I'm just like, why are they not censoring the ads? Like, what's that all about? Now, it's a short window, and they've got to make maximum impact. So the marketers are going to go all out on all the 5 senses, your VACOGs, and it's like trigger. If we can hit all 5 repeatedly with a core message in a short window on a regular basis, then we can start hooking people in, and you know, hook them into an addiction, or hook them into a particular way, you know, of behavior. So I would suggest, just turn off the devices, just turn off the like, I do not listen to news at all, ever. I haven't for years. I think it's such a, you know, you start your day, and the very first thing you do is you listen to drama. There's no good news in there. There's hardly ever. I mean, there might be the odd thing, but it's an exception rather than norm. Everybody is looking to sensationalize, out-sensationalize, be more, you know, they've got clickbait where it's like, you know, hook you in with some kind of, you know, overly dramatic, you know, they make it way bigger than what it actually is, just to try and get you in, to hook you in. I'm not interested in any of that. And I would, you know, it actually raises your cortisol. I think it's, you know, within 14 minutes, they've actually done research, within 14 minutes of you having watched any form of news in the morning, they have now monitored that it raises your cortisol levels by, I think it's I can't remember, 15% or something, but it's enough for you to now go off and start your day in a negative frame of mind, in a fear-based frame of mind. So I'm like going, why even do it? Switch it off. If you're not liking the messaging that's around you, plug into, you know, headphones, you know, and play positive music. Have positive messages that you're giving out to your kids in your language, and on their devices or whatever. Screen as much as you can of all that negative violence stuff, because all of that builds up the cortisol and adrenaline, stresses out a person, stresses out your kids, stresses you out. If you're, this is one of the reasons why I'm not into gossip. If you then have, oh, did you hear that? And then fill in the blank. Oh, did you know about that person? Fill in the blank. It's all negative stuff. It's and you're compounding it throughout the day. It's no wonder you're going to be in a complete mess by the end of it. So start being aware of what's going on around you, when consistent messages, and then positive ones as well. It's like, good positive messages, like my sister, I'm going a bit and I'm going to finish up now so that I don't absorb more of your time. My sister's school, when she was there as deputy headmistress, I loved it. There was on steps going up to their school, I think it was their school, they had empowering messages on there. It's like, you can do it, take the next step, raise your standards, be genuinely kind, support somebody. So that's positive messaging. So this is what you can do, is you can now go, oh, I love that works for me, and then you can choose to buy into it, or choose not to. Choose to wear those shoes, or choose not to. And if it might be that you still wear these shoes, but you might do a few adaptations, like I did with the things. Still be safe, but I just don't want to be to the point where I'm just in such a negative state. It's like, oh my God, I'm so nervous, and I'm so anxious, and I'm so stressed out, and I'm so overwhelmed, and the world's all going to come to an end. Take a breath, don't be constantly triggered by that. And this is how I'm going to stop that from happening, but I'm still going to maintain safety, So it's the same with your kids. What can we do to help them make have the awareness on, they really are filters. I call it, shoes and shades. This is the shades bit of the business, of what I'm talking about in the next book, is all about our filters. And it's like, how do we filter the world? How do we go, no, those, I don't want to see that. I don't, I'm going to change my glasses out from fear-based to, empowered based. So I hope you found that useful. Just be conscious today. What I would like you to do is just notice something today. Just go, oh, I always buy that particular product. Why? Or do you know what? I do feel a bit crap after having listened to the news consistently for 5 days. I'm going to try not doing that just for a little while and see how I feel. I mean, just test it out. You adopt it, don't adopt it. If it's your thing, do it. If it's not, then also that's up to you. Your shoes, your path, your way. I hope you found this really useful. You know what time it is. It's time to go and check out what shoes you want to wear, ladies. Do you really want to be conditioned by other people? Do you really want to be hypnotized by marketers, by whoever? Yes or no? If it's with good intent, sweet, and you're okay with it, no problem, but at least it's your choice. And that's where I want you to get to. Awareness is the very, very first key. So let's do this, okay? Please tell me what you discovered and pop it down in the comments box, will you? And I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Thanks again for your time. I really appreciate it, and congratulations for following on with the journey. Take care. Namaste.